Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, we scrutinize, and we celebrate The Last Jedi, one reflective minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
And I am Riley Silverman from @RileyJSilverman on Twitter.
Welcome back, Riley.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Thanks for hosting us here in your Force Cave. I like your new background there for the video viewers. Anyway, today we're talking about minute 77, appropriately, of The Last Jedi. It starts off with Rey seeing her reflection in the magic Force mirror. It turns out that the secret was friendship all along. And it ends a minute later with Rey reaching out to touch someone's hand.
It's
the big reveal.
The reveal was her. It's a mirror. Mm-hmm. What'd you expect? There should have been a little thing on a little sticker on it. It's a mirror. Yeah. What'd you expect?
Objects in mirror may be more nobody than they appear.
Right. Maybe narratively less exciting than they appear. Although it's not. Yeah. I don't find it less exciting. I'm not disappointed by this. I like we said, in the long run, I think it's.
Well, the message I took from that was basically. Which I guess a lot of the movie seems to have this undercurrent theme, is that you're kind of in charge of your own destiny. Like, in a way, you are your own parents. Like, you can make yourself into anyone you want to become, like, regardless of whatever genetically, people or whatever past circumstances, where you're always your own agent to change that. So then, and that's what, Kylo Ren says later, just get rid of the past, and Yoda burns down the Force tree, and there's a lot of
Love that moment. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's the message I took from the movie too, even before Episode 9 came out. And I am someone who actually can still square that message with what happens later. But I think that is very much what I took out of it, and I think that it's a lot of what this movie is trying to get at, for sure. And I think you can tie that back into Empire as well. I think that's the whole idea of Luke being the face in Vader's mask. Like, yes, there's the element of, like, this is your father's, your family legacy, this is your destiny, possibly, if you follow this path. But it also is very much like, at the end of the day, it's your rage that you have to be careful to fight against, because otherwise, if you embrace that, this will be your future as well. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's about how are you going to approach the situation as opposed to trying to kill your enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's important. And it's a good way of revealing it. And also, we get to kind of sit on it like it's not at the end of the movie. Although we joked about, like, if this was a Disney Plus series, that would be a good ending of the episode, like a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Now,
would it be the end of the minute, like kind of yesterday? Would it be like, who are we going to see, and then see Rey being shocked for a second, and then we don't get the reveal, or would it be that we see Rey and she sees herself, and then that's the end of the minute?
I feel
that's
like
the end of the episode, rather.
I feel like I feel like having that big cliffhanger and then only seeing herself people would be too angry if they made it into a bigger cliffhanger. Yeah, right. So I think it would have resolved by her seeing it, and then whatever the rest of the episode would have been just her ruminating on it or whatever.
Right. Like, she sees herself in the mirror. Cut to black and credits.
Yeah.
I think the cliffhanger moment is the cut back that she's talking to Kylo. I think that's the thing that's like,
that would be a better
the audience, like, I'm trying to process what just happened with, oh my God, who's she talking to? And that's the end of the episode. Like, whoa, what's happening here? Yeah.
Right. You just get that one hint of him at the end, and he was like, you're not alone. And then, sorry, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Well, it's in this minute. Yeah.
Oh, it is. No, it is. You're right. All right. Yeah. Sorry. There we go. We could talk about it.
No. I said what I had to say about it.
That cutting back in, having her being, seeing the thing. This would definitely be the end of the episode, where we see her reaching out to the mirror, and I think you're both right. I think actually, Riley, you're the most right. So we're going to give you the points.
Cool, awesome, I appreciate that.
Thank you
for coming in and ruling that. Yeah.
Seeing that gasp of like just Kylo saying, like, you're not alone, and her saying maybe even include her saying neither are you, and then boom, and cut to credits. I like it.
It would have been interesting if it had, as we discussed yesterday, if it had been, say, Obi-Wan Kenobi or Sistine or whatever. Like, if it was a character we knew but that Rey didn't know, would she be like, Emperor Palpatine is my father? Like, would she
she wouldn't have been like, my father is some old guy wearing a bathrobe, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Like,
you know what? That's a really good point.
So it kind of, although I guess if it was someone like Obi-Wan, then it could have been like, yes, it's me. I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, he could have explained things to her because he's a Force guy. So,
remember me? I'm the one who called out to you when you picked up my lights. The lights, I was me. Remember, you heard my voice. That's also why I was definitely in the camp of Obi-Wan might be her ancestor.
That makes sense.
But yeah, remember, I left you a message. Did you not get it? Was it not? Was it not there? Hello there. Yeah.
It was too short. All I said was
I
Rey.
can't figure it out.
Oh, and if it was Obi-Wan as the father, as the parent, a grandfather probably in this case, at least, I think it would end. The episode would end with Obi-Wan appearing and saying hello there, and that would be the end of the episode for sure. 100% Dave Filoni
in the mirror, just totally like,
hello there, and then
that's what it resolves into.
Yeah.
I like if Obi-Wan showing up and some floozy he spent one night with on how you doing, doll face? One of the Tonica sisters.
Yeah, so we do. Here's an interesting. We're hearing her kind of relating this, and we cut back and we see this long shot of her kind of standing there touching the mirror from the. It's almost kind of what's going on in your background, Riley, where it's like we see you from the outside, kind of looking into the mirror in the seaweed hole, and she's got her hand up on it, and you still see a bunch of rays reflected in there. And I was like, well, what? Is this reality? Like,
it's a magic tree.
Yeah, but it's an interesting, like, is it that, trying to science it? Is it kind of like the science behind, like a crystal ball or even the wrong show, but Crystal Skull, where, people claim it has all these, you can see, like you see these visions of the future, and it's basically just kind of because of the refraction and reflection elements of the crystal and the warp of the shape of it. When you stare into it, there's just kind of, glints of light that your brain is trying to connect, and your brain is always trying to make sense of everything. So if you see these, little bits of light here and there, it's like, oh yeah, that looks kind of like a dog. Like, oh, you will meet a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same thing where it's just this kind of infinite reflection of mirrors and the Force being kind of what it is, the Force kind of acting on your psyche? Is it? Are you creating all this kind of in your brain? That your brain is trying to make sense of what you're seeing, and the Force is helping. The Force is like, I think that's her dad, and like creating it. But is it all based on this just kind of actual physical, infinite the infinity mirror or whatever that you get from Spencer's Gifts?
I will say, well, I don't know. If you're trying to argue that the Force is basically a hard physical, like there is no magic tree, it's just a trick of light in your brain attributing patterns to one
hokey religions and
yeah,
right.
So but since this is Star Wars, I'm going to weigh in favor of it really being a magic tree.
Right.
Like, whoever went into there would see something totally different. It wouldn't necessarily be.
But that mirror would still be there?
No, not necessarily.
No?
It might not be a mirror. Like it might be the Force of Darth Vader coming, whatever you needed to see.
Yeah.
So,
because it looks to me like that mirror is really something about moving the camera that far back and getting this long shot of her standing there.
Yeah.
With her hand up against it.
Yeah.
It almost seems like in not to bring it back to the MCU, but in Avengers Endgame, where we get they're spying on Star-Lord as he's doing what we have liked in the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, and we see it with when that scene had the music that he's listening to and it had the whole thing. But then when you see the two people hiding behind the rock watching him do it, and they're not hearing the music, and he's just kind of dancing around singing to himself, and he looks like an idiot. I wonder if that same kind of a thing, like this is a porg's eye view of like why is that weird girl just touching the mirror and talking and crying?
Well, I think I can buy the mirror is physically there, or at least like there's a rock that has a reflective nature to it. But the fact that it's cloudy when she first arrives, and the fact that she's also seeing images of herself stretching on for eternity, and that there is a loop of some sort, like those are things that would not be happening just because of a mirror, and I think just because of a trick of light that you're convincing yourself. So I think there's a case for a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
I think she fell down the seaweed hole, hit her head, got up, saw the mirror, thought it was somebody else, started talking to it, and then it's this whole. There's no force going on here.
I think
there's no force in Star Wars. Yeah,
I think the post-credit scene from Rise of Skywalker should have been her emerging from the hole, like the whole rest of Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker are all visions in the Force.
That was weird.
I hope this works out. Yeah. Now let's and then we see a new movie. We see the Duel of the Fates instead. I do actually. This is one of those moments where I know why they didn't do it, but I am like, well, how did she get out of the weird seaweed hole? Like, how did she climb back out? Like, this is always like, is it like Skyrim? Where, like, once you've unlocked the dungeon, there's like another door that opens up and takes you right back to the top instead of having to go back the way you came. Because like once you've gone down the weird, scary seaweed hole, how do you get back? Is there like one bit of seaweed that's hanging down low enough that you can climb yourself up? Do you have to like have a bunch of people at the bottom of the hole chant for you to rise so you can climb yourself out? I don't understand what's going on with it.
I think fire codes demand that there be a hidden entrance with an exit sign over it that you can't see when you're up at the top, but when you're in, you're like, okay, that's the way.
Do now love the idea of a caretaker fire marshal. Like one of the caretakers with like a little red hat just kind of going through and, sending Luke tickets that are in a language they can't read. He's like, what is this? Why do you keep giving me these?
Or is this like Jedi Fallen Order, where like once you're in the seaweed hole, you learn a new force move that allows you to jump off the sides of the walls and get back out again after like 3 hours of trying to make it work because it's very hard to time up the shot exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna. Well, why am I back on my anti-force horse lately? But I'm gonna say that it's none of the above. That she just kind of because we see her kind of, wet in a blanket by the fire, I'm assuming she was like, well, I have to get back now. So she went and swam around, or waded at least, around the outside, because we see that there is an exit from the water side, the seaside. Right. So she went around back to the kind of thing, climbed up over by the Falcon. Chewie's like, why are you wet?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Well, speaking of Chewie, did you? I mean, I think Luke is the obvious answer, but it would be fun if she was talking to Chewie around the fire. Once we realize that she's in a voiceover, she's talking to somebody. We're assuming, like you said, that it was Luke, and she's kind of recounting what the way that Yoda went. But Luke went back to Yoda and was just assuming. Well, I guess we don't really see that. What do you think? Do you think Luke did go back to Yoda and be like and say like, oh man, I saw my father? Or did he go back and be like, oh, that was fine. Yep, nothing. That was cool. Yeah. I saw sunshine and lollipops.
Like, dude, I totally saw Darth Vader and I killed him with one shot. I'm the best Jedi ever. I'm going to go fight him right now. And he's, oh, no.
There was more to the story. Right. I set it up for you. I put the mannequin in the suit for a reason because there is no force. Yeah.
He didn't even notice that it was his own head in there.
Yoda's like, Vader, what did he look like? I'm like, I don't know. He looked like a doof. I killed him.
No, I put it right through his face, so I didn't know what his face looked like.
So Riley, I'm gonna get a little personal now.
Okay.
I asked Pete this question on the weekend show. If you had the opportunity to go into a magic tree / cave and find out some deep thing about yourself, would you take that opportunity?
I think I probably would, but I think that I'm in a unique position in that kind of commentary, and that I am a Jedi. No, I think I am someone who had to go through a pretty deep journey of like self-introspection and like figuring out who I was as a person and stuff like that. And so I think that there's definitely a time in my life, especially when I was Rey's age, I think I would have absolutely been like trying to solve the puzzle of myself in a way that like, not in a like, where did I come from kind of way as much as this, but more of like, where am I going kind of way. So
yeah, you kind of did your own magic tree.
Yeah, it just took a lot longer. Required a lot more medical intervention.
And do we see?
For the record, I said no. I said I don't even go on, Haunted Mansion. Never mind going to a cave specifically tailored to my own fears. So. Yeah.
Oh, I miss Haunted Mansion. I want to go back so soon. Sorry.
Do we see any other mirrors in Star Wars?
I mean, I think there's mirrors in the world between worlds, but I could be wrong about that. What if that's the unique? There's a lot of talk about like all the technology being analog versus digital in Star Wars, but we also learned there's never been a mirror before. Like no one's even thought to have a mirror.
It was like a rock, but it was shiny.
I think Padme has mirrors for. She has to have a mirror. You can't do that kind of hair without a mirror.
I don't know. She's got handmaidens aplenty though.
It's true. But I think there are scenes of Padme with a mirror, like a hand mirror of some sort.
Oh, now I would love it if George Lucas said no, mirrors don't exist in the Star Wars universe.
I'm actually Googling Padme mirror to see if there's like a mirror image somewhere.
It looks like she's in a mirror because they look very similar to the handmaids. So.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. You hire someone who looks just like you, and then they move with. They actually do the improv mirror game. And someone's like, someone should invent something like this. Like, why would we do that? We have handmaids.
Yeah, we've got people to do that.
Yeah, I guess you could use like droids as your,
Right.
I think that it's weird because I think mirrors tend to be avoided in filmmaking because it's like a recipe for getting a camera caught in the mirror. Right. So I think that if you have the ability to set a room up that doesn't have any mirrors in it, you do it. So
I do remember them saying that they couldn't, that's why they could finally do like mirror-y spaceships. Yeah, because like the spaceships, Naboo
I was gonna say,
spaceships.
The Nubian J-type. That totally chrome.
Yeah.
But they used to not be able to do that because, like you said, there was no way to not see the reflection of the camera in it. But now,
I do like the idea of there are no mirrors, and somebody walks up to the spaceship like, somebody's there, like getting totally freaked out.
It's like the Star Wars version of the people who believe that the train was coming out of the movie theater when they first when the Lumiere brothers made their first movies.
Or the ship is everyone thinks it's like a haunted ship because if you go there, you'll see your own, see your destiny if you look at the ship. You're like, whoa.
Cut to like this exact scene with Rey, like by the campfire, except it's like Rick Ollier, and he's like, I don't know what I expected to see. There was a spaceship.
I'm Googling. I cannot find any. I Googled, are there any mirrors in Star Wars? And I'm finding nothing, except for the mirror scene that we're currently talking about.
Right.
So, fascinating. That's why I don't think this movie is really Star Wars.
It's got a mirror in it. Yeah.
Come on. In fact, the first Google was a Reddit thing that says, are there any movies where a character used a physical mirror in Star Wars? Oh, here we go. Let's Wikipedia, which always has the fun mirror. There's a comic book where there's a mirror that's been used in canon. It's literally okay, there are a lot of these are from a certain point of view, which wouldn't necessarily count at the point when this movie was made. But okay, this is a rabbit hole that we don't need to go down. Sorry, but
we'll save that for our upcoming video show.
Yeah,
right.
So, any other questions about the magic hole or the mirror, or any of that stuff before we move on to the
fireside chat?
The Ben Lowe. It's not Ben Lowe.
Ray
No,
Lowe.
it's Ray Lowe.
Ben Lowe.
Ray Lowe. Let's
I love the idea of Ben Lowe. It's like that's like the people who ship Venom with Eddie Brock and Venom as a character. They ship Kylo and Ben Solo together. Forget about Rey. I want
always
the dark and
two
light
there
side. There's always perfect.
Yeah. Although, I'm sure that's out there. I'm sure there's some art of that, of Ben Solo and Kylo embracing.
Yeah. It's like the bad Ash and good Ash in Army of Darkness. There's like a bad...
So yes, we find out that she is confiding, in fact, in Kylo Ren.
Right. With it's an excellent reveal in that, she's kind of, detailing everything that happened, and then the first thing that we hear from him is him saying, "You're not alone," and that's like, oh, like that works on many levels because she's not alone in the hut, and she's not alone, in terms of this kind of we're playing on the dyad here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then I'm consistently impressed with how, it sounds trite for me to just say like I'm consistently impressed with how strong a character Rey is because it's like, oh yeah, that's like a talking point kind of a thing, but like with how like even on subtle levels like this, like how Rey's character kind of rebounds where it should, she's making specific strides forward for the narrative, for her character, for everything, and not just like, oh, like she was a strong character because she's, she'll hit you with a stick, but like no, she was a strong character because also like her response is immediately like neither are you, and she's striving towards the good and towards the both what we want for her character, for what we want for the galaxy, and what we want for the plot. Like she's always kind of pulling it forward, and it's a really interesting character. Like her response is almost lost on me the first couple of times. Then seeing it, I'm like, oh, she's totally like reaching out to him.
It goes back to what I was saying yesterday about why I think her vision is so different in the whole than Luke's was, because this is her motivation as a character. She's so much more interested in healing at least in this film. And then next film where we
She's
let her
definitely
get
interested
angry.
in healing next film, but
Yeah, well, that's true, but she also is a lot angrier in the next film, which I think is
Right.
it's fun to see her get to a breaking point. But in this film, I think she really truly believes that if she feels the pain in Ben, and she feels that she has the ability to help that, and that is her driving force. And that's why when it doesn't work later on in the story, it's so tragic, because it has that same feeling that Empire has, of you really believe this character is going. The first time you see Empire and you don't know what happens in it, you have that feeling of this guy's gonna fly off to this cloud city and save the day and help everybody. And then when it all goes horribly wrong, you're left with that feeling of wow, I can't believe how wrapped up I got in that and it didn't work out. That is how this one is too. You get so caught up in, especially, I don't want to get too deep into later minutes, but in that throne room scene, you're oh, Ben's turning. She's getting what she wants. She and Ben are gonna team up together now and fight the First Order. And then when it doesn't happen, it's so heartbreaking, because there was such a good investment in Rey's character's belief in that and her plan for it.
Yeah.
One thing I hadn't thought about until we were discussing it just now, but it's kind of a nice, not sleight of hand, but the implication is sort of that once Rey swam out of the hole and went back to dry land, she called up Kylo and said, I have to tell you about this, what happened. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But up until this point, they have not been able to control when they are put in touch with each other.
Right.
So it's slightly interesting to me that how was that? Was it Palpatine being oh, good, now they've made a connection, and after that she's gonna want to talk to, this would be the perfect time to to connect them, or
why?
Yeah.
Or it was because she had been through such a traumatic event or whatever, that it kind of kicked in just because they have this connection to each other.
Not just a traumatic event, but a traumatic event skirting the dark side, because the Seaweed Hole is strong with the dark side. So for her to go there and be kind of walking, it's like the to cross franchises for a second. It's almost like the neutral zone, she took a step into the neutral zone to get kind of
Crystal Skull, neutral zone. You're all over the place.
I'm all
today.
wrong show today.
It's like if the Jets wandered into the Sharks territory.
Exactly. She's meet me at the soda shop, but if she stepped into the kind of skirting the dark side, then that might kind of trigger it without because that they do have this, they're meeting kind of in between. So for her to kind of take a step towards the dark side, that might kind of trigger it together. And I don't, unless I don't know, unless maybe throughout, as it happens, it seems like it's happening kind of stronger and differently each time. So maybe they're learning on how they can trigger it, how they can make that call.
Well, and also if there is the implication of if there is the element of Snoke / Palpatine stoking the fires, given what happens in the next several minutes that we're going to talk about later this week, I definitely think this is a very pivotal moment for her, where it breaks her ability to keep training under Luke. And so it's a good moment for someone manipulating Rey to want to stop her training and bring her to while she's not in their mind powerful enough yet to defeat Snoke / Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we see Luke briefly in this minute, where he's Rey!
Oh, right.
And you just see him kind of stumbling around in the rain. So that's another question: is do we assume now Luke is at least in a friends with benefits relationship with the Force now? He's because he clearly is sensing some kind of disturbance in the Force, so he must be, he must have his notifications on. What I'm.
Yeah, we'll find more about his connection with it, I think, later in the week too. But it definitely, I don't know if it was her adventure with the Seaweed Hole or her connection to Kylo. I don't know if Luke can sense that. I don't know if he knows what that is. I think that's a new, because that, as far as we know, that's never happened before. That kind of, the communication between the dyad. But I think if he was just I got an alert that Rey, went into the Seaweed Hole before, but I never got it. She didn't report back to me on what happened. Like what?
Yeah.
So maybe he's kind of going around trying to. He's like, "Are you done? Are you out?"
He looks like he's
Can I
moving
use the
with
shower?
purpose. He definitely has like something is disturbing him. So
Yeah.
I think that I think that it's closer to what Alex is saying with the notification. I think it's almost like getting an emergency alert on your phone when you think your phone's on Do Not Disturb mode. You're like, oh no, there's a flood warning. Like I don't think he knows specifically what's happening, but I think he is getting a ping that something is wrong. And I don't know. My mentality of it is I don't think Luke is ever being honest when he says he's cut himself off from the Force. I think he says he has, but I think he's always like. I think he's the fact that it's like Yoda will say later, like, why hasn't he burned down the tree yet so far? If he's really believed this idea about himself, I think that he's said he's cut himself off in the Force, but he's still hanging on a little bit always.
Right. So he
Well,
says he's not on
Leia's. He's not getting any of Leia's messages.
Right.
If he is, he's just not. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said he's not on Facebook anymore, but he hasn't deleted his account. He just doesn't go on there. Every once in a while, he'll go on and lurk, maybe, but he doesn't post anything. He doesn't do, you know.
Yeah. Or it's like maybe the energy coming off, because the dyad is so powerful that this like energy coming off of it is so loud for him that he can't help but notice it, because it's right there on his island. It's like in this area that's already pretty powerful in the Force, and it's like happening right in front of him, and it's somebody he's made a connection with recently. So I think there's probably a lot going on there with that. Like obviously he's drawn to it. Like you can just he is kind of like stumbling around for it. He's not just like, hey, I wonder what she's up to. Let's go check out her and see how the hole went. Yeah. So
well, I do want to see, because he doesn't know that she went there, right? What was the last thing that we saw Luke say?
I can't remember, but isn't the last? I mean, I wasn't here when you watched it, but isn't the last thing he did where he refuses to train her because he's afraid of how powerful she is?
Yeah, I think the Darth Sidious speech, I think, is the last thing. Like,
yeah, so I'm looking back to see that and seeing what. So maybe he was just like he's looking to apologize. I'm sorry.
There's an immediacy to that. I mean, I can see why you're saying that, but I'm looking at him just now, like
it's
something
nighttime
is
and it's raining. He's definitely, this is more than just like, hey, I'm sorry, I flew off the handle before.
Because there's even like a shot where he like stops and he's like,
he has a pose there.
Yeah.
Although maybe it's.
I know you don't believe in the Force, Pete, but I think that if you believe in the Force, you can tell something. And also, we'll talk about it tomorrow, I think, but there is immediate proof that he has some Force connection that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Almost immediately after this happens. So, yeah.
Although I'm going to say maybe it's just raining in his hut, and he's looking for Rey because she's got the keys to the Falcon. He's like, can I go sleep in there? It's cold in my house.
Was he maybe saying rain? When he
rain! On a wedding day.
He did grow up in the desert, so to him it must still be a
it's like, this is the biggest moisture farmer haul I've ever had in my life.
Carrying around buckets trying to catch it.
Talk about evaporator.
I'm rich.
My hydroponic plants for days.
My last note is that she says it isn't too late, and then she's kind of reaching out, and I like the idea that it wouldn't be like it isn't too late for a thumbs up. Like she's like giving him a little like it's not too late for me to encourage you.
Or she puts out her hand and then he reaches out and then she pulls it away like too slow. Like
she does that thing where she puts a symbol below her waist and then she gets to hit him because he looked at it.
Right. Yeah. Or it isn't too late to pull my finger. She's gonna pull that one.
Who knows what's gonna happen when they touch?
We'll find out tomorrow, I guess.
Well, I guess that'll wrap up minute 77, unless you guys have anything else specific to this one. Sounds like we're eager to get to tomorrow's minute, so we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
And if you need something to entertain yourself, dear listener, while we're getting ready to record tomorrow's episode, go over to moviesbyminutes.com, where you can find a complete catalog, over 150 titles at this point.
Yeah, at least, right?
Wow.
It was the
150 crazy people who are took up the Movies by Minutes baton. Everything from. Do you have an update?
Well, I was going to say, as of this recording, there's 194.
Wow.
194 different, including some multiples now, right? We've had a couple of people doing the same.
A little bit of overlap.
Yeah, but so if you
Hangar 94.
If there's a 94, if there's a nerdy movie you're interested in, somebody is probably doing a Movies by Minutes commentary on it. So go check that out.
Even if it's not nerdy. You'd be surprised at how many there's a lot of rom-coms and
hey, those rom-coms have a nerdy font. There's a very intense rom-com nerdy. I think anyone who's doing a movie by minute podcast for a thing can be defined as a nerd for at least that particular genre.
That's true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And movie makers themselves are kind of nerds, so it's really a.
But I would say, as someone who has written a rom-com script with my writing partner, like it's actually shockingly tropey and shockingly like the amount of like beats that are very like intricate and like as a genre, it's as intricate a genre, shockingly, as a sci-fi film or horror. Anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting your promo. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. You reminded. I wanted to bring up a question about romantic tropes.
Okay.
Rom-com tropes. I'll bring that up tomorrow.
Cool.
On the next Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.